We were approached by City of Limerick VEC to do some research work on their blended learning approach in the classroom, which is to use the Writeon.ie programme with ESOL learners. What we did as part of the research was we had the ESOL learners complete a survey on SurveyMonkey, but it was done as part of their classroom work. It was quite a comprehensive survey, but we made it as easy as possible, and because it was written into their classwork, they spent one day understanding that survey and filling it in. And then as a follow-up to that, we did some focus groups with the ESOL learners as well, and from that we were able to put some flesh on the data that we got from the survey, particularly around how useful was using Writeon.ie and what are their particular needs in relation to such a programme, because bear in mind that Writeon.ie was designed for literacy learners, not necessarily ESOL learners with language needs. And very early on I began to see with the ESOL learners, this seems to be more about language than literacy, in that very few of the ESOL learners had specific literacy needs. They would be at maybe level 3 or 4 in their own native countries. So that very early on I began to notice the difference. This seems to be more about language than literacy, and is it a useful language tool to use? In our study, the learners came from Africa, Asia and Eastern Europe. They were mostly from the new EU accession countries. The majority were from Poland. We had some from Latvia, Lithuania, Pakistan, Somalia, Nigeria, much smaller numbers. 60% of the sample were from Poland. It was a mixture of migrant workers and refugee/asylum seekers. So even within that group, there were different needs and different motivations for returning to education. Over half the sample were female, and more than half were in the 35 to 44 age group category. The three most important motivating factors for returning to education was 90% rated their primary motivation as a chance to improve their English. The second most important motivation was they wanted to improve their skills in reading, writing and numeracy in English. And it's interesting here because later on I'll show you, we asked them to rate their skills, and numeracy was the one which scored the highest and was the one there was a least increase in terms of progression. They seemed to be really proficient in numeracy, and it didn't seem to be something they particularly struggled with as someone who does. I found that quite interesting. And the third one was to improve their chances of getting a job. The three least important motivating factors were to be involved in their children's education. And as a researcher, I found that interesting because research suggests that a lot of adults return to education to be able to help their children with their education. Nearly 20% wanted to get a qualification, and a smaller number, 12%, wanted to complete their own education because, as I said, they did have qualifications that they brought with them from their own country, so that wasn't terribly important to them. We asked them to rate their skills as easy, medium or hard in reading, writing, listening, speaking, technology, numbers and learning skills. And there was a significant movement out of the hard into the medium and easy categories, mostly into the medium category. And again, that would have been about a 10 or 15% shift that we found there. As I said, the use of English is limited outside of the classroom. They're often embarrassed to use English in a social situation because they're embarrassed by their perceived lack of English, even though when I was interviewing them, they were absolutely fine. When we asked them about using Writeon.ie and any benefits or what they found useful, they said the voiceover was really useful, but there was plus and minuses there. Because the voice on Writeon.ie is a mechanical voice and not a human voice, they struggled with that. They didn't always understand the voice. We can't do anything about that because it costs an awful lot more to get a human to do a voiceover than it does to have a mechanical voice, and at Nala we don't have that kind of money. They found it really useful having a tutor to explain the site. So any difficulties they were having, the problem was solved immediately, and in doing the exercises on Writeon.ie, there was immediate gratification because they were doing their exercises, they were getting 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 6, and when they went wrong, they knew where they went wrong and could go back and correct it, and found that really useful, and loved the pulling and dragging exercises, and were really proficient in the use of technology. Not all tutors were in favour, I have to say, of using the Writeon programme immediately. There were a couple that thought it would have been better to introduce the learners to the classroom situation first before introducing them to the Writeon.ie programme. But slightly more said, no, I thought it was really useful. It was great to get them interested in it. It's right, it's visual, it's right there in front of them. And like that, they can do the independent learning and they can use it at home. So mixed reviews from tutors, and I suppose it's each to their own on what your teaching style is. As I said, it wasn't designed necessarily with ESOL students in mind, but if it can be beneficial, why not use it?